We have built cities that pierce the clouds and networks that bridge continents. We have effectively reshaped the planet to suit our needs. But 200,000 years ago, our ancestors were remarkably ill-equipped for this world. We lacked fangs, armor, or the speed to outrun a predator. We spent our lives hiding in the shadows of caves, existing as just another link in a food chain that viewed us primarily as prey. Survival didn't come through physical evolution. It came through the unique ability to imagine things that didn't exist yet, to see the potential in a sharp stone or a flickering spark. This mental leap allowed us to step out of the shadows and secure our immediate safety. But outsmarting the predators in the dark was only the opening of a much longer and far more complex cycle. Human history operates on a relentless cycle. Every breakthrough we invent to solve a threat to our survival triggers a chain reaction, creating an entirely new set of consequences we never saw coming. Our first victories were over the immediate environment. By mastering fire and stone tools, we turned the freezing, pitch-black night into a space where we could finally think and plan. Once the cold was beaten, we targeted the uncertainty of hunger. Instead of moving with the seasons to find wild herds, we stayed put. We learned to plant seeds and control the growth of our own food. Farming required us to stay in one place for months and then years. We built mud brick homes that lasted through the seasons, and for the first time, we began to cluster together in permanent villages. Because we were stationary, we could store what we grew. This created the first granaries, stockpiles of food that acted as a buffer against a bad winter or a drought. But the ability to accumulate a surplus changed the social structure. For the first time, some individuals controlled more green than others, creating a hierarchy of wealth that hadn't existed in hunting tribes. Protecting those stockpiles required walls, turning neighbors into rivals and defining the first territories worth fighting for. As populations swelled into the thousands, managing constant disputes over land and resources required a more complex structure. In the fertile river valleys, we built the first massive urban centers to bring order to the chaos. These ruins reveal a shift into rigid planning. Foundation walls are separated by straight, deliberate paths, a grid designed to organize thousands of people into a single, predictable space. Living in such high density meant we were no longer just interacting with family, but with thousands of strangers. To keep this collective from collapsing, we had to invent shared invisible rules. Behavior was codified into written laws, and diverse beliefs were unified into organized religions, creating a singular identity for the state. This concentration of people and resources gave rulers immense power. With an organized labor force and a massive surplus, leaders began to look beyond their own walls, driven by the ambition to absorb their neighbors. Civilization shifted the nature of our struggle. We were no longer fighting the natural world to stay alive. We were fighting each other to determine who would sit at the center of the empire. For millennia, progress was limited by the speed of a horse or the strength of a human arm. The Industrial Revolution replaced biological limits with the tireless motion of the machine. Steam and mechanization allowed us to produce goods at an unimaginable scale, connecting distant markets through a web of iron and rail. This acceleration came with a heavy social cost. Millions were squeezed into overcrowded, unsanitary cities, and the gap between the people who owned the machines and those who operated them grew into a vast economic divide. To fuel this global mechanical engine, we began extracting coal and oil from the earth at an exponential rate, consuming resources that had taken millions of years to form. We had achieved total mastery over the material world. Yet, the very energy sources that powered our dominance began to alter the chemistry of the atmosphere, threatening the stability of the biosphere that makes our survival possible. Today, we inhabit a world of instant global communication and transcontinental travel, a reality that would look like magic to a human living just 2 centuries ago. The ancient war against the wild is over. We have successfully insulated ourselves from the raw elements that once threatened to wipe us out. Our imagination has now turned toward new frontiers. We are building machines that can mimic human thought and preparing the first missions to sustain life on other worlds. Our fears have evolved with our capabilities. We are no longer terrified of what might be lurking in the dark outside our caves. We are increasingly concerned with the unintended consequences of the technologies we have built. the paradox of progress remains. Today, the ultimate challenge for our species is no longer about outsmarting the natural world. It's about whether we have the collective wisdom to manage the immense power we have created.